Alright, class, now that we got the chill vibes out of the way, let's get back to the regularly scheduled sensory overload. If you watched my next best video from a few months back, then you'd know that one of the games I covered in it was a boomer shooter by the name of Mullet MadJack. For those that don't, this week we're going to be talking about Mullet MadJack. It's a boomer shooter that was developed by Hammer 95, an independent development team of, I'm guessing a small size, but I couldn't get a concrete answer based on the Googling I did. I need to hone my Google who some more. Either way, this looks to be their debut game, and all I can say to that is, God damn, that's a hell of a good first impression! Still though, Mullet MadJack, if I had to describe the general vibe of it, would be all killer, no filler. This is also how I described the Pete Travis directed and John Wagner, Carlos Esqueda, and Alex Garland penned Dread from 2012. God, I wish those guys and Garland would get back together to make another Dread movie. Dread 2012 was so fucking good. What was I talking about again? Oh, right, Mullet MadJack. Since you're watching this video, then you've no doubt noticed this game's audiovisual stylings. It throws an otaku's old mail-order anime VHS collection into an industrial-sized blender, dashed in a bunch of synthwave albums, and then hit puree. It's a style of anime from before my time. I think this was like back when it was referred to as Japanimation on late-night television. So I don't get the nostalgic warm and fuzzies like others would, but I will admit that it looks frickin' cool. But it uses that aesthetic sheen to lull you into a false sense of security. Based on the story anyway, Mullet MadJack is set in a world where humans and technology have blended so thoroughly that it's caused a species-wide dopamine deficiency, where if you don't get your next fix in 10 seconds, you die. That's where Peace Corps comes in. They're one of the mega corporations to the setting and supply the people with the streaming of specific individuals, known as moderators, who go on hyper-violent killing sprees for ultimately meaningless prizes against the wealthy elite class of robot billionaires, portmanteaubly referred to as robillionaires. Jack, the moderator you play as, does all of this to save a social media influencer. It shouts its dissatisfaction with the state of modern technology and capitalism from the rooftops. It rages against the universe's systems and ultimately the real world's hyperfixation of AI to paint a grim picture of its reality. It's loud, it's angry, and it's not the least bit subtle about it. I wasn't expecting a boomer shooter, of all things, in the year of our Lord 2024 to have such vicious commentary, but here we are, I guess. At least that's what my reading of the narrative was initially. I wasn't sure if I was gonna write about all of that because I was going, "Aw, man, this sounds way more radical and smart than I was making it out to be." Then I finished chapter 3 earlier when writing this script and immediately went, oh no. Not only was I correct in my initial reading, I wasn't going hard enough with how angry it was. There's a specific sequence at the beginning of chapter 4 where, spoilers by the way, after a thrilling rooftop sniper battle, Jack gets his brains blown out by the game's antagonist, Mr. Bullet. Your handler starts a brain reconstruction program to bring you back because not only do the viewers love you, you're really good for advertising, as it turns out. And when in there, you see a recreation of Jack's apartment, and it's commented that most of humanity doesn't even get something as nice as Jack's small, one-bedroom-looking kind of shithole, and that's terrifying. That's all beneath the surface, and if you want to go digging for it, then go for it. Is Mullet MadJack an incredibly ridiculous homage to 80s anime aesthetics and old-ass first-person shooters? Yes, it is. Is it also a burning screed against capitalism, the attention economy, and wealth inequality at large? Also yes. Multiple things can be true at the same time, and as a result, Mullet MadJack can be enjoyed on multiple levels. But this is just me and my ADHD having ass getting the dopamine rush the main way I know how, which is by actively engaging and dissecting with the media in my life because I'm a weirdo, and that's also part of why this entire YouTube channel exists. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting a bit into a feedback loop, so let's get to the main reason why y'all are here. The gameplay and design. temporary analysis threw you through a loop. Don't worry, you're not alone on that front. I don't get to flex my critical analysis skills very often, though that could be a new avenue we could go down with these videos. If you want that, let me know in the comments. And while you're at it, like and subscribe. You get first-hand notifications of when I release videos, and it's a great old time for everyone. Now that these sponsored messages are done, it's time to actually get things on the road. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Mullet MadJack is a boomer shooter, which is to say a first-person shooter that serves as a throwback to the wide-open levels and exploration of games like Doom and Quake, Heretic and Hexen, or the Build Engine trilogy of OG Shadow Warrior, Duke Nukem 3D, and Blood. But it kind of isn't a boomer shooter at the same time. Stick with me here. Mullet MadJack fully integrates the narrative conceit of you only got 10 seconds to live into the gameplay. You only, on paper at least, have 10 seconds to fully get to the elevator of each floor. Each chapter consists of 10 floors and is capped off with a boss fight or set piece. Add in some procedural generations with the leveled layouts and upgrades that only last a chapter. Baby, you got a stew going. And said stew also has the unforeseen side effect of making Mullet MadJack equal parts boomer shooter, roguelike, and Hotline Miami of all things, which feels like a weirdly welcome surprise. But it still feels like a cohesive campaign with a constant through line because every time you start a new chapter, it serves as a checkpoint. You start each chapter with only a pistol, and from there you go in and shoot as many robots as you can, as fast as you can. Your timer is constantly ticking down, and killing enemies nets you more time. Regular kills nets you 3 seconds back, environmental kills nets you 4 seconds back. You can also pick up random objects and use them in New Doom-style glory kills for a full restock of life, and chug in delicious life soda for a full restock of life as well. And these also tie into the difficulty scaling as well. To do a first playthrough / get footage for this, I played through most of the game on normal because Mullet MadJack shouted that out as the difficulty that teaches you how the mechanics and flow of it worked. There's also modes where it augments difficulty by making it so glory kills and soda get your health back, or time I should say, limiting the amount of time that's only recoverable by crits to make it harder to get more time, even adding in a permadeath difficulty, but also make things more accessible by loosening the timer by giving you more time, or even removing it entirely for a more straight-up boomer shooter campaign. Those are all cool ways to scale the difficulty without changing the mechanics of playing it. It's really good game design. The under the hood stuff is cool, but the actual nitty-gritty is even better. Running, gunning, and dashing all feel fucking great. This might be one of the best playing boom shoots I've played that released this year. Hell, that's up there with Ultra Kill, Proteus, and Dusk. And after playing through the perfectly cromulent Wrath, Aeon of Ruin, and the decent, I guess, first impression that soured horribly on Graven, I should do a follow-up on Graven, it was a very nice change of pace. There are only 6 weapons in Mullet MadJack, a small but understandable arsenal size due to the game's variable nature. You have the aforementioned pistol, a shotgun, an SMG, a railgun, a plasma rifle, and a goddamn katana. The first half of the arsenal works the way they would in any other FPS game they're featured in. The second half is where the wild shit is. The railgun fires slowly, but is a guaranteed one-hit kill, and interesting balance in a game as fast-paced as this. The plasma rifle lets you spray and pray and pretty much anything, and the katana is where the real Hotline Miami energy comes into play because you are running and slashing and running and slashing and running and slashing, and whenever I get my hands on it, I would just go full rampage! And it's so fucking sick! And then you die, and have to start all over again at the beginning of the chapter without any of your upgrades or weapons at that point, and then you go Revenge Rampage! But back to the weapons. All the weapons have 2 levels of upgrades that drastically change how they function. My favorites being the double barrel for the shotgun and the minigun upgrade for the plasma rifle. And then he added the potential to get infinite ammo for your guns, and that combined with the permanent upgrade that lets you keep weapons in between checkpoints, and from there, I just solved the difficulty in Mullet MadJack. I say this because the amount of running and gunning I'm doing with no need to aim is wild. You also get various per-chapter upgrades that unlock in between chapters and permanent powers that change the nature of the structure. The former is the percentage increases and some wild stuff like exploding soda cans, to even making Jack up a lot of weird one-liners. Of course I took that one when I could. And the latter is things like keeping your weapon in between chapters, re-rolling upgrades in the shop, and making it so that your leveled up weapons can be bought at their highest available weapon, and keeping weapons and an upgrade of your choice when you die. These all come together to make a game that's incredibly heart-pounding, but a little easy. You can even optimize them if you want.
Start today.
See, that took me around 45 seconds. These levels are the definition of short but sweet. They can bleed together a bit towards the end, and that's more of a don't burn through this in 3 to 4 sittings problem. There are also the chapter endpoints I want to talk about. Each one of them is either a boss fight or a set piece. These can be as simple as a cybernetic beholder, a not-so-subtle reference / shout-out to Chainsaw Man. I should read that, I've heard good things. The aforementioned rooftop sniper duel, and a fight that can only be done in melee kills that starts as a turn-based RPG, and that's not even getting into some of the more out-there shit, which I'm not gonna spoil. These are where Mullet MadJack is at its most creative, and it's also the most difficult, because your timer gets shut off and it's a regular boom shoot at that point, so it's always weird feeling at first. These are my favorite parts of the game, and I adore them. Mullet MadJack is, by and large, one of the best games in the new canon of independent shooters. It's got a great art style, a surprisingly angry narrative, mechanics that give you a great and ironic dopamine rush, and a willingness to poke fun at itself through its mechanics. And they all come together for a killer package. You get in, you get your fix, and get out. And even if it has some pacing issues and longer play sessions, in an era where everything wants hundreds of hours out of you and fill it with tons of busy work, Mullet MadJack is still the definition of all killer, no filler.